And I think the Panthers is pretty obvious. If you're talking about one big thing about the Carolina Panthers, it's quite simply Bryce Young. Now, you could go either side of the coin if you want here, and I'll defer to our junior draft analyst, Ryan Wilson, in discussing how Young fits in with the Panthers.
Oh, that's the thing, Katie. Feel free to use it.
I'm going to say it until he's actually named senior draft analyst, which he should be based on the hierarchy and his time spent at CBS and the number of times he had to podcast with me. Plus the daily or like twice or three times a week verbal beating he gets from Rick Spielman. It's just brutal on with the first pick.
Brinson is our sophomore draft analyst.
Sophomore. Yeah.
Wilson Jr.
I'm really more like the third freshman year. Hi, Breech, by the way. So anyway, Bryce Young is the one big thing. If it's Bryce, it's either Bryce Young because he's the answer at quarterback and the Panthers suddenly have life. And you feel like this team, which has been dead last in NFL passing touchdowns, interceptions thrown, and passer rating over the last 4 years combined, as you can see on the graphic, youtube.com/NFL and CBS. Whereas if Bryce Young is not the answer, he's also still the big thing. And if this passing game doesn't get going with Frank Reich and Bryce Young, Wilson, boy, oh boy, will we have some questions to ask.
Yeah, but I think it will. I think that's.
No, I do too. I'm just saying
an easy answer. No, I get what you're saying, but I mean, last year Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and then PJ Walker, all to varying degrees, did not do well. I think if you look back, I think Sam Darnold actually had the best record of the crew, but still, it didn't work. Matt Rule got fired. You can make the case that Steve Wilkes should have kept his job after I think they finished like 6-5 or something down the stretch, something crazy. But you could also argue that Frank Reich, new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown from the Rams, obviously my guy Jim Caldwell, and Katie, this is one of my bits that you haven't heard because I haven't been on in a while. Jim Caldwell got fired going 9-7 in back-to-back years for stupid ass Matt Patricia. Maybe should have kept Jim Caldwell around. But anyway, he's there. McCown's there. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, Billy's showing the clip of the first passes that Bryce Young made as a Carolina Panthers player. And ironically enough, the first person I got a text from was 4'8" Pete Prisco complaining about how short and small he looks. And look, he does look short and small. But here's the thing: it looks like he's wearing freaking who's like a tall quarterback that played for the Panthers. Kerry Collins' uniform. Get him one that fits, and then you don't have to worry about him looking like he's a fourth grader. But he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about it. But that is, I think that obviously they're going to go as far as Bryce takes them, and I feel like this team has a pretty good chance. I'm not sure if you guys have talked about the win totals, Brinson, but are you on the Panthers? I feel like that's something you would be on winning the division.
Yeah, I think we either have the Panthers or the Falcons winning the division. I actually had the Atlanta winning 10 games in my in my model, my projections, and the Panthers.
The Brinson model.
The Brinson model, that's right. And the Panthers winning 8 games. I had the Panthers originally at 10, and then sort of did some manually tweaking. I didn't love the computer results.
That's a great way to model things, by the way. Just make it say what you want.
No, I wanted the Panthers to be ranked high, and I just thought it came out. I think 10 fell. I think there's 10. I think there's upside for 10 wins for 3 of the 4 NFC South teams. Breech.
Well, one thing here is that, and Brinson, you obviously mentioned the passing game, but I feel like Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer kind of built this team in case they get off to a slow start, in case there is an adjustment period from the passing game standpoint. Because you look at who they brought in at running back. I mean, they have Miles Sanders. They also have Chuba Hubbard. They have guys who can run the ball and they can pound on the ground if that's what they need to do, and only throw 20 passes a game for the first few weeks if that's what it takes for Bryce Young to get warmed up. And let's not forget, you know who Bryce Young is taking snaps behind right now? Andrew Gregory Dalton. Now, I think that's, I don't think this is going to be a Gardner Minshew, Trevor Lawrence situation where we all mocked Urban Meyer during training camp that one year because they were splitting reps. There's no reason that should have ever happened. You got to give most of your 1 reps to your rookie quarterback. He needs to learn the offense. That's different in the spring. You can do that in the spring. Once training camp starts, I think we'll see Bryce Young get a lot more of the snaps. And I think this team is going to be good. I think they're stacked. And the quarterback is the biggest question mark. So if Bryce Young can just play 15% better than what they got at quarterback last year, and I think he can, then I don't think Brinson's prediction is too crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, Breech, what's the over-under week-wise until Andy Dalton starts for Bryce Young?
You know what? Maybe they go crazy and they say, let's let Andy Dalton start week 1. But if they don't think Bryce Young is ready, then you say, all right, Andy will start the first 2 weeks. I mean, we saw it with Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. The only reason Justin Herbert got in there is because Tyrod Taylor's lung got punctured by the Chargers trainer. So we have seen a top 6 pick ride the bench recently in week
Baker
1.
Mayfield wasn't going to start till Tyrod Taylor got hurt too.
Right. So it's not completely crazy to think that Frank Reich is thinking, you know what? Well, Bryce Young is 100% ready, and I don't want to throw him in there unless he's 100% ready. So we'll start Dalton in week 1 or week 2. I mean, I think Bryce Young is going to be the starter, but it wouldn't be totally shocking if Andy Dalton starts week 1.
I will say that I could see maybe a situation where Frank Reich looks at the schedule and says, you're at Atlanta, the Saints at home, at the Seahawks. Maybe that's like a 3-game stretch where you feel like Andy Dalton can comport himself a little more like the veteran. But I am in agreement with Wilson. One, that like if Bryce Young is not starting, what are we doing here? And then 2, Panthers fans are going to be pissed